Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome in. I hope everyone is ready or getting ready for Valentine's Day. It's just right around the corner. So these are just some fun ideas that you can use whether you're hosting a Valentine's party or doing something with your family or your significant other over Valentine's Day. We use a variety of different materials from cardstock to vinyl to do some decorations. I have 4 projects set out, so we've got a pretty rigorous amount of activities to do, but hopefully we can get to them all and answer your questions along the way. The first item up is an invitation. So invitations are just a way to let people know, hey, come on over, we're having a party, let's get together. I thought this 3-dimensional heart invitation was super cute, very easy to make with your silhouette. Now I will be using the silhouette cameo and the adhesive mat. It's over there, so I'll grab that in a second. You guys can see that. But first, this card is available on the Silhouette store, so you can go in and grab that. I'll start with sharing my screen and showing you how to bring that into your library once you've downloaded that item. So let's just go right here. Now, as you can see, I already have parts of this card up on my screen. What I want to do is give myself a new canvas. So I'll click the plus button, and that brings up a new canvas. And then you'll go to your library at the top. In the library is where all of your designs are stored. This is a recent download, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on the heart card. When I click on that card, I bring it into my canvas. Now I can resize it if I wanted to by grabbing all of the pieces and enlarging the pieces, but I thought that this was a pretty good layer of designs and I didn't need to enlarge it any bigger. You can separate your items on your paper a couple of ways. This card itself is just a flat card with the score down the center, and then you have these 3 hearts here which also will have a score, and then your white heart and your red heart. So one way I like to do sometimes is I will clear everything off of my canvas and leave only the one layer that I want to cut at a time and just come back and forth and clear those layers. That to me is like the no-brainer way. I don't make a mistake that way. I get exactly cut what I need. So what I mean by that is I'll just take these layers and drag them over off the canvas and cut one layer at a time and just come back and forth and cut those different layers. If you wanted to have everything on the canvas at once, you could always cut your material to fit in the space that you were cutting. So for example, if I knew that my hearts were going to be down at the bottom of my canvas, I would just have those hearts at the bottom and cut those 4 hearts together and then my card at the top. And I would layer those materials on my cutting mat to cut that way. You can also, when you go to send your design, so if I hit send, I can go to the layers and cut with the layers. So the first layer, you can see what you're cutting as you're going through. Let's do, and I'm using different materials for different layers. So let's just do the heavy cardstock on that first layer. Let me see which layer that is. Oops. Sorry, let's do it by fill color. There we go. So if I cut each fill color at a time, it will cut the brown layer and do the scoring lines, and then it will cut the red, the white, and then that 4th color of red. If you go by line, it's sort of the same way. Everything that it has the same color around the line, it will cut at one time. Or again, the simple, you can just move items off of your mat and cut them when you're ready to cut those items. So I can just take these hearts and the white heart and remove those off the mat and then just cut the card. So to make it easy, I am going to have all the hearts on the mat together, and then we'll cut. I'll show you how to kind of stack that onto your mat at one time. But what you do need to do if you're doing it that way is know where your cutoff line is, so how far down your items go. So this goes 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5. So if you bring your card down 5.5 inches, and then your red colors up to 5 to what's that, 6.5 inches, you'll be okay. So why don't we go? Let's switch over to our overhead, and I can show you how we're going to do that on the mat. So on our mat, and again, this is a sample of the paper pack that I'm using. It has a whole bunch of different pattern papers and some glitter papers. And then I've added some of my own solid cardstock that's just in my stash, if you will. So the card for this one, I wanted to use this cute paper with the hearts on it. So to get this to work, I'll cut my paper down to 5.5 inches and just use your paper trimmer and trim this paper down 5.5 inches. And then this will go on the top portion of your mat. So this will go up here. And then let's see if I want to make sure, sorry if that's a little low. And then my hearts, well, my hearts are out of an 80-pound texture weight material. It will still cut the same weight. So I'll just need to trim this to 6.5 inches. So using my paper trimmer, I'll trim this down to about 6.5 inches. Hopefully that's right. I'm eyeballing that just a little bit. Get this one on there. Oops. I lost my foot. So I'll put that on the mat. Now my glitter cardstock, I'm going to cut next, but the glitter cardstock has a different setting than say your textured cardstock or your pattern paper. So these I wouldn't want to cut at the same time. So we're going to hold that guy off, and going up to my machine, I'm just going to press my cutting mat against the wheels on my machine, and we'll feed that in. And then let me share my screen again to show you all how to get that started. Let's share the screen here. So once it's ready, it'll tell you that yes, your machine is ready to go. I have a textured cardstock, it's 80-pound weight, and I'm ready to cut that. Now, if I hadn't cut with this material before, if this was the first time I was cutting with either of these types of material, I would do a test cut. And I'm going to show you how we do a test cut. And I do that if I'm ever cutting material that I'm not familiar with or it's new to me. I'll just do a quick test cut to make sure that I have the right settings for it. I want to push my paper off the table here. So now it's just doing that. It's automatically doing the score line right down the center of my card. I could have done each color individually, done just the red color and then the card itself. I could have done those as 2 separate operations, but stacking them together can be a time saver. And this little, the card itself is really cute to use if you're doing like name places and you just want like a little heart on a name place. You can cut that smaller and just get the hearts. So like the hearts here, if you just want to do like a little name setting, if you're doing a sit down meal or something like that, you could just do a nameplate and have that little heart on the nameplate. Okay, so once it's done cutting, we're going to go ahead and remove it from the machine. Now, this is a trick I learned long ago. Always turn your mat upside down and remove your mat from your material. This is really important when you're doing cardstock because cardstock can tend to curl off your mat. So as long as you turn your material upside down and cut that way, you'll have a nice smooth release of your material. Now that last heart we're going to do, I wanted to do out of gold glitter. And I want to make sure that my gold glitter is going to stick on my mat. So I'll use like my little wedge tool here to make sure it's adhered down to my mat. A little static thing going on. And then I'm going to show you how I do a test cut. So we'll go ahead and feed this into the machine. using the arrows here, you can set your starting point. So if I know I'm going to have a heart right here, I'm going to want to test cut over in this direction. So I'll move my head over and down a bit. So it makes sure that I cut on the material. Oops. Little chippy there. And then in my machine, let me share my screen again with you. In the software, this is where you can do your test cut. So down here on the right, it says my machine is ready and I can send a test cut. So I'm going to go ahead and send just the test cut and make sure, oops, see, I didn't change my settings. I did cardstock, the heavy cardstock. So I know that's not gonna be heavy enough. I had the wrong piece in there. So let's go back over to our software. And first we'll just move the white heart over onto our canvas because that's really what we want to cut now. So we'll just bring this over onto our canvas. And then I'll change my settings. So up here's a huge list of all the different types of materials that's available. So we'll change it to the glitter cardstock. And we will run our test cut again. So I'm going to bring it over to the center and bring the blade down a little bit. Actually, I'm going to go over a bit more on the edge here. It seems wasteful, but it'll make it easier for me to show you all that I got my test cut. So once I have it in place, I go back to my software and I say test. Now I moved it, so we'll cut it like over on this corner here. Let's hope it works. So that does the test cut, and the test cut is a square and a triangle. So you can bring that right on out and make sure that it gave you a good cut. So it very cleanly cut my material. Now I know the settings for my glitter cardstock are going to work. I can load my mat back in and just cut the glitter cardstock. So I'll go back over to my software and say, instead of testing this time, I'm just going to say send. So giving your paper or your material that test cut will save you a lot of headache in the long run. So now we have, while that's cutting out, I'm going to move all these materials so we don't have all this in the way as we go. I kind of tried to layer it up to make it easier. Okay, so now that I have my heart cut, I can pop that right out. And there we go. I've got a beautiful heart and I have plenty of material to use to make something else. As far as assembling this card, you'll notice that you have three of our hearts have a score line down the middle, and one of the hearts does not. So this is is going to be the base of your heart, of your card. So we have our card here, and I'm going to go ahead and fold this in half. And you can see, like, you've got a little bit of space here that overhangs on your card to give you that heart. You can go ahead and write out your invitation, or I added an extra piece of cardstock to write out my invitation. Again, you can do that with your machine using the pen adapter, or if you want, I did mine by hand. There's a little trend right now, Doug's Winter Party, and he hand wrote invitations for his neighbors. So I thought that I kind of went with that vibe. So I'm just going to take my adhesive, and this is a clear adhesive. It just goes on, it rolls on, it's for paper. And we'll put that one heart in the center. Now, again, this is the heart that doesn't have the perforation down the center. The other hearts that do have the perforation down the center, it makes it really easy to fold those in half. So we're just going to fold those in half. Let's get them. This paper has a little bit of a texture to it. And we'll just adhere those right on top of that first pink heart. If you want to send these in the mail, you can cut out an envelope to match the size of your card. And I recommend having them hand stamped by your postmaster so that they don't go through the machine as many times. Gives them a little bit more security. Then I put adhesive on the outside of the folded hearts, and I'm going to layer my third heart on top. Now, this adhesive, whatever paper adhesive you use, it really does hold nicely on top of your glitter paper. So you don't have to worry about it adhering to the glitter paper or not. And there's our little 3-dimensional heart that really pops out. And then again, we'll just add more adhesive to the back of this and position that right in the center there. Now, if you wanted to, this little heart design here, you could make a banner with it. Again, you could make it, make food labels, and just take this part of the heart and add it to other pieces of paper and other designs. And then, of course, don't forget your invitation details on the inside. Okay, if anybody had any questions about this project, please do drop them in the Q&A for me as we go along. I didn't do anything to modify or adjust the size of this project. The next project I want to share with you are these cute little treat holders. So these are very fun, super easy to use. They do use the perforation, and you can cut them out of a variety of different materials. This cardstock, this clear cardstock, I guess, came in the package, and I was curious to see how it would cut and what I could make with it. And these little treat bags were absolutely the perfect thing. So let's dive into those first or next. Since we've done our card, let's dive into those next. When your guests arrive, you can either do this while they're there or after they've, after they've come, you've welcomed them, they can have a little treat. Maybe you have a little candy area that they can fill up their own treats if you wanted to. But I just loved how the vinyl, this clear vinyl, really just made it cute. And you can see the little treats through the clearness of it. So kind of a fun thing to make. So in my stack, I had all different, I think there were 3 different designs of paper to use. So let me share my screen again, and we'll go into that design, and I'll show you how we did that one. Okay, so this was my Valentine treat box. Now, what I want to point out to you here is in your library, you can bring this design in. It's called a heart box holder, and I think it's like 97 cents, and you just bring it in. What I want to show you though is how, let me get all those pieces together. When it comes into your canvas, it is really small. So there, I think okay. So it comes onto your canvas very small. And I thought oh, that might hold just 2 little kisses. I wanted something that would hold a little bit more than 2 kisses. So all total, the height of this entire thing, including the bottom, was a little bit shy of 4 inches. So what I did was I just enlarged it. So I kept my proportions locked, and you just grab a corner and drag it out, and that enlarges both the design itself, the cut lines, as well as these little perforation lines, which is really important. So I have all of that cut out, and if you wanted to do more than one on a piece of paper, you could just duplicate this one image and have it be 2 on the paper. So I right click on the element, I say duplicate, and it brings out 2 of the designs. Now, I think I have to flip this around a little bit, maybe make them a little bit smaller so that they'll both fit on there. But one thing I do want to point out to you, let me just get that out of the way, is if you can see, okay, there we go. Let me get this out of the way here. I did go back a little bit. Now, it might be a little bit hard to see on the mat because those little red dotted lines kind of blend in with the mat. But if I move just this brown piece, you can see that the perforation lines don't follow. So I want to have the perforation lines and the cut layers together. So I will select both using my mouse and I'll right click on it and say group. Now when I move or change the size, it will do both layers together. I've grouped those layers together. So it will be both of them at the same time. Then I go ahead and hit send. Oops, look at that. I saw those other perforation lines down there. See, it was hard to see. I don't need those. Okay, so when I go to send, this is again an opportunity where you want to test your material. So when I did my test, my first test was with an acetate sheet thin. And I was a little bit nervous about that because I thought, oh, this really isn't thin acetate. It's kind of like a thicker acetate. So I don't know if it will cut with thin. It did a great job. So I'm going to stop sharing here and I'll show you, we'll go back to the overhead and I'll show you how how we just cut this. And it's so fun. And you can cut these out of glitter cardstock. You can cut them out of the acetate, out of regular cardstock. And I'll show you even on my mat here, sometimes your cut settings might get off a little bit. So like my test cuts, I don't know if you guys can see that. My test cuts hit my mat sometimes and I go, oh, I don't have it in the right spot. So I just have to adjust it and get it into the right spot. So once I have my acetate on there, again, because it's a little bit of a different material, I'm gonna use my little silhouette wedge and I'm gonna make sure that that's going to stay on my mat. We'll go ahead and load it and I've got the acetate thin setting selected. Now, sometimes, just something to be aware of, sometimes an acetate may have a clear side on it, like a film that you have to peel off and reveal the thinness of the actual acetate layer. If you're using acetate that does have that thin layer, you do want to remove it prior to cutting, so that when you cut your when you're cutting, you're actually cutting the acetate and not that clear layer. To get for these, let me just dump out my little treats here and I'll show you. For this clear acetate, you can put in a little tray, a little card in the bottom to give it a little bit of support if you wanted to. And I did use my clear tape so you don't see my tape lines on my little box. And if you wanted to, you can even close it up with some ribbon. You can add somebody's name to this if you have. I have another project, my last project, so hopefully they'll have time to get to it. But we cut out somebody's name, and you could just take one of the letters on their names and put it on a little treat bag if you wanted to. This looks really cute on a solid color treat bag too. Just put that on there. Or you could just cut out some hearts. If you had some extra hearts that you cut out, like the hearts in the handle do cut out. So if you had an extra heart, you could just put that on your design if you wanted to. I'm looking to see if I have an extra heart somewhere. I'm sure I do. But that's always really fun. And the cool thing is, like with the perforation lines, you don't have to worry about scoring anything because everything is just scored for you. So as I push these layers back, they go right along those folds. So you don't have to worry about scoring anything, like getting another tool out and scoring it. You can just use your machine, use your score lines that are in there and just go ahead and give those a nice easy fold, and that gives you your score lines. So I'm going to do this box twice because it took me a while to figure out how it went together. It's very fun. So this lip here, we're going to leave this lip out. Your center pieces will go slide in, and they kind of go on top of that cutout of the rectangle there. And then, so is that right? They go like that. Sorry, they go on inside like that. And then on your rectangle here, We're gonna add a little bit of adhesive on the flap. Get that. Open that up a bit so we can, I'll put a little bit of adhesive on this flap here. I'll put a little bit of adhesive on that flap there. And then when you put it together, so your corner pieces come to the outside, they tuck underneath that open square. Now this has adhesive on it, so you carefully need to lift it and pop it underneath that opening. And then you just go on the inside and kind of push it down to adhere so it doesn't pop out. So you just can, you can stick your finger in there, whatever, but then that gives you a nice seal on the bottom. Okay, so we've got like these 3 cute containers here. Let's look and see how our fancy one cut here. Again, I'm turning it over and I'm peeling off all the vinyl pieces, all the little inside heart pieces and everything are all gonna come right off. And you can make bigger containers if you wanted to. You could keep them small, whatever, whatever you want to do. This is a great way to, if you're having like, if you're doing like cocktails or something and you have some cute little olives or strawberry picks or something like that, you could put these on a bar with your little decorations and then fill it with, your olives, your strawberries, anything like that. Okay, so it comes out and all we have to do is turn it over. We're going to put some adhesive on this little flap first. I like to fold along all my score lines before I put anything together. So we'll just score, fold, fold, fold. Okay, and then we have this little flap here, and I'll use my adhesive and we'll just kind of push that down. And then everything is all ready to fold together. A little extra fold. Push that one down, and then that just matches right up. Oh gosh, guys, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit off my camera there. That will just match right up with that line right there. So you can see where it overlaps, but you really don't see your adhesive or anything like that. Then for your bottom of your design, we're going to go ahead and put some adhesive on this tongue that flips out. So I'll just put some adhesive right on that. And if you have like a dries clear glue, you could use that as well. Your flat side with the cutout that matches goes first. Your side pieces tuck under. And then this last piece, we're going to tuck under just like that. And then again, you just turn it over, give it a good push with something, and you're good to go. Like that. And that's all you have to do to make some cute little decorations. And again, like if I don't know that I would put, like I said, olives, but olives may have some leakage. But if you put little strawberries in here, or if you wanted to make a little s'mores package with some graham crackers and Hershey Kisses and marshmallows, that would be adorable. Donuts for your kids in the morning, those little mini white powder donuts, a little packet of those would be cute. There's so many fun things that you can do with these. And then if you have your leftovers, you can just adhere them onto a plain one like that if you wanted to. So lots of fun ways that you can do with that. Now, speaking of when your friends come over and you're getting ready to do your activity, maybe if you're doing a craft activity, or if you're just hanging out, no planned activity, but you want to give people a fun spot that they can sit. Maybe you've got some extra little crafty things set up. You may want to have a little placemat for people. So with this placemat, I'm going to show you, I used a scallop frame and a really fun font. I can't remember the font, but we'll look it up. And then I just added a rectangle on the back so that color could come through. If I wanted to, I could put like another color behind that. And I like to cut my letters. If I'm doing something like this, I like to cut my letters out of the paper and then just add back in the little, embellishment spot that goes with it. So for this one, we'll cut out our circle, our name with the scallops first. Now, one thing to take into consideration when you're working with cardstock, or even if you're working with material, does your cardstock have a right or wrong side, like direction? So this cardstock here has all of my hearts going in one direction. When I load this into my machine, I want to make sure that those heart shapes match the position of my design. This is another one. Our little heart here has, the cute conversation hearts on it. And so if you load this into your machine and your design is upside down, then all of your little hearts and design are upside down. Something like this one doesn't have a right or wrong, direction to it. So it really doesn't matter which way it goes into your machine. So keep that in mind when you're working with cardstock or if you're working with fabric. Does it have a right or wrong direction? And is my design going in the right or wrong direction? Okay, so I've got that loaded in. Now let me head back over here and I'll share my screen on our computer. And guys, don't be shy about asking questions. So I'm happy to answer as we're moving along. Okay, so I have this one we've already done, but let's look at our Galentine mat. So as you can see, I have a name, a cute little frame around it, and then another frame around that. So how did I get all those pieces and layers together? Let's give ourselves a new mat here, and we'll go to the library. If you've gone to like your recently downloaded, I've selected this scallop square frame. I knew I was working with 12 by 12 paper, so I was looking for a square frame. If you're working with like 12 by 24 inch paper, a more traditional size for a placemat, you can, then you'd want to look for a rectangle. So I put this on here and then I just enlarged it so it would be about 11 inches by 11 inches on this size. So if you go up to your height and width, you can just change that and make that 11 inches. Since my proportions are locked, if I adjust the width, the height automatically adjusts along with it. Now, if you remember, the design I cut out did not have this center part cut out. That center part didn't cut it. But if I were to send this to my machine right now, you could see it would cut out that center portion of my design. I didn't want that. I wanted the whole centerpiece to be together. So my first thought was, let me see if I can ungroup this centerpiece from the outside piece. So if you right click on it and you would come down here to ungroup, well, it's not grouped. It's actually one design. It's not two designs cut into the other. So then I just selected release compound path. With that released, you could see there that it had those cut lines right together. And I don't want it to cut that out, so I just deleted those cut lines. And let me go back and do that again. With the center part of my design here, I didn't want to cut that. I wanted just the scallop border. Normally I would think, oh, it's got to be two shapes, the rectangle shape and then the scallop border shape. So let me right click on that and ungroup these designs. So I couldn't ungroup those designs. I had to choose release compound path and then delete that, and then delete just the internal rectangle right there. And now I can cut out just the rectangle with the pattern paper. But again, I wanted to add a name to this. So I just selected the alphabet tool on the left and I brought it over to the center. You can start off by typing, whatever name you want to type. Let's do, let's say Lisa's coming to the party too. Lisa. And then you can go to your fonts. Now I did download the font to use, and it's called BFC Quick Cupid. Not cute. So that's in my library from Silhouette. So we'll highlight that name and we'll change that to BFC Quick Cupid. And then I can enlarge this on my map. And again, I want to make sure that my name and my mat all cut together. So let's get that centered. And we'll push that up a little bit. So it's at the top portion of that mat. I just want to grab the name. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to move that up just a little bit, if it'll let me. Okay, let's just pop that right up a little bit more. Just like that at the top. Now, if I don't, stop. All right, you two. The shenanigans with these layers. Let me bring that one back down. And again, since they're layered on top of each other, when I go to cut them, they will cut the name right out of the background cardstock. Keep moving. Okay. I'm going to bring it back up just a little bit. I wonder if my finger's getting stuck on my thing there. Okay, we're going to put that right up there. And I'm going to go ahead and send that to my machine. Now you saw I already have my machine loaded. I just need to change my material to a heavyweight cardstock, and it will cut everything out at once. While that's cutting, I can still be designing. So I'm going to go into the design feature and add that background mat onto my page. So I'm just going to cover, go around my mat, add the background of it, and I can put color on it if I want to see what it's going to look like. Then that's the back. So now I can then cut my next layer when this one's first one has been done. So we can just cut and make mats. And then once you have this design, if you need to change the name, you can just move that name off of your mat and add another name and keep cutting. So once you've designed your mat, you're good to go. And since this is something that they designed here, I want to make sure I save it. So I'll go to the layer up here, and you'll go to File and say Save As, and we want to
Hey Kesley, it seems you're muted. I'm trying to unmute you, but it says ask to unmute on the camera that shows your desk.
There we go.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, so we're just gonna we'll save this Lisa's Valentine mat. And then if I want to make other things with Lisa's name, like a name, like give her a name tag or a place setting, I have it all saved right there. And I can just grab that whenever I want to cut that out. Then I'm gonna send this over, and I will do, I'll cut by my fill color. So we're gonna turn that one off. And we just want that one on. You see, maybe I need to go my layers. Turn that one off. I don't want this one. Huh. Okay, sorry, we're gonna go back over here. Let me move this one out of the way. I'll move that one out of the way, and I'll move the name Lisa out of the way. So then all I have is my rectangle, and I just need to change out my design of my paper, and we'll be ready to share that. So I cut out my scallop with my name Lisa, I'll turn that over. And see, again, I have her name that I could just use for something else for my party. A little thank you bag, or, you know, again, her place setting, her card, whatever you want to do. I'll save my little A because we'll need that to put in the middle. We'll glue that back in the middle. So again, I'm just going to put my heavy cardstock on my plate, on my cutting mat here. And it would be fun to do like little charger plates for people with their name on it. You could cut that out of patterned vinyl if you wanted to. So many fun things you can do. So let me just go here and we'll just get this cut. Ready to send that over. I'll save this. And then everybody can kind of take their little mat home if they want to. At the end of the event, they could just, you know, take it home. If you did something fun, like let's say if you're with your single girls, maybe you did your dream hunk and you designed your page, and then they could take that home. Or they could, maybe you did some vision boarding for romance, and they maybe decorated on the back of it with some vision boarding, and they have that to take home. So that is always really fun. Okay, this one's all done. Now we'll just take this out again. And I've been doing all of this with cardstock, so you can see how much fun you can have with cardstock and how many different designs you can make with different types of cardstock. So again, I'll just use my adhesive glue here, my paper adhesive, and we will put that down. Now, if I want to, I can add a little bit of liquid glue, the Ultra Bond adhesive. Love this stuff. Just in some of these little smaller spaces so that the little pieces here don't come up. So when I put that down, I don't want those little tab pieces to kind of pop up on my friend. So we'll just put that right like this. Center that on her piece. And then I have the little heart that I left over from the A. And if I don't want to eyeball it, I just put my A back in. We'll put a little dab of glue right there. And then we can just put our little heart right back on the center there. So now your girlfriends have their invitation. They have a cute little name mat and your little goodie bag. But no party is good without a beverage. So let's talk about what you can do to create some cute, fun little beverages. I put kisses in this cup. So this was a really fun cup. This uses two different types of vinyl. I have just a white permanent vinyl, and then I have a color transfer vinyl. So I want to show you how you can cut out a glass can wrap and apply it to a glass can. Michael's has little red glass cans right now, which are super cute and very fun to use. So we're going to go ahead and cut out this design here. So let's go back into our silhouette. And now this design, I did, let me find my design here. Here we go. This design I just created with dots and little flowers, little hearts. So what you'll want to do is measure your glass can tumbler, the height of your tumbler and the width of your tumbler to know what size square you're working with. And then you can add little heart designs to it, little dots that you want to, anything. You could put somebody's name in here if you wanted to, and they had like a fun little treat to go home with. So you can do any of those kinds of designs that way. Since we're cutting this on permanent vinyl, we don't have to do any mirroring or anything like that. We'll cut it just like our paper. But for this one, I want to show you, so we'll do a glossy vinyl, and I want to show you a little party trick. If you're running short on time and you need to, was I sharing my screen there? I hope so. I'm going to show you guys again. I think I was sharing my screen. Here's the design we're going to cut out, and we're just going to do that in vinyl. And I do draw a square around my design to make it a little bit easier when I cut it out. And I'll kind of show you why I do that. But it's all ready to go and we're gonna send it over. Let me stop share here. Now, my trick, my party trick, sometimes if you get short on time and you wanna make something quick, there is a material called Smart Material by Cricut. And the Smart Material was designed to cut in a digital cutter without using your mat. So if you haven't tried using cutting vinyl on your Cameo without a mat, I highly recommend you try the Cricut Smart Material. And then you can use, once you get comfortable with that, then you'll see like you can use any type of vinyl and you don't have to have a mat. Now, when we were cutting out our cardstock, you needed a mat because you needed something to hold these little pieces together. But with vinyl, you have what's called a carrier sheet. And this backing is the carrier sheet. And that's going to hold all your little pieces together. So we can just load our material into our machine. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you've given yourself, it's a long enough piece. So you know, your design will not go off the edge. So I've got plenty of space there. And I don't have to use my mat. Now, what cutting vinyl without using a mat, what that frees you up is it frees you up from being limited to a 12-inch by 12-inch size or 12-inch by 24-inch size. So if you're making a lot of these little tumblers, being able to cut your vinyl without a mat is a great, it's a great easy thing to do. And it also, you can use other types of vinyl in your cameos without using a mat. Cardstock, you'll always want to use a mat, but like your vinyls, you can cut 12 inches by 48 by 78 inches and not have to use a mat, which is a game changer. Now, since we're done with our mat, you want to put your blue cover back on your mat when you're done. And the reason being is that keeps your mat clean, so your mat doesn't get dirty. So always keep your little blue cover with this shiny side down, and that's going to go right over your mat like that. And then you're ready to tuck it away until you're cutting again. Okay, now I will show you how easily this weeds, but I've got this one cut down to size here. So we can start getting this ready to I'm also going to be using the Make Market can holder. This holds all your tumblers, but it's so that your tumbler doesn't roll around on your desk. So you can just hold that right in there. And then I have some Make Market transfer tape already cut down to size. So you'll need that. And then the last thing we'll use is some rubbing alcohol and a lint-free cloth. If you don't know for sure if your cloth is lint-free, you can always use a coffee filter. Coffee filters don't have lint in them, which is good because you don't want lint in your coffee. Now, I do keep my rubbing alcohol in a separate container so that I always have it handy and it doesn't get lost in the closet with all my medicine stuff. So I'm just going to take this and spritz my coffee filter with it, and then I'll clean my glass tumbler here with the coffee filter and the alcohol. So you want to make sure you get that nice and cleaned off, and then we'll set it down to do any drying that it needs to do. And I reuse these too sometimes. If it has if you have like a little sticker on your glass, you want to make sure this is the time to get your little sticker off and all that, make sure it's really clean and ready to go. Now I've misplaced my weeding tool. Don't see it, but I'll show you guys how easily this weeds. So I can just take my vinyl and first I'll remove the outer piece like this. And then what I like to do is I then like to trim my vinyl down to size. So if you have a little extra that you've, on the sides or the top and bottom, go ahead and trim that off using your paper trimmer. So you just have your design left on your carrier sheet. And now usually I would recommend you would want to use your for this you would definitely want to use your weeding tool, but I must have misplaced mine at some point, so I'm gonna have to do it without a weeding tool. Let me just slide this out of the way. And so I make sure I get this in here. Okay, so all we're gonna do is we'll remove the excess vinyl on our design. And you just start at a corner and you go at about a 45-degree angle and you just remove that vinyl. Now, if your vinyl doesn't come off this easily, I recommend you do that test cut and figure out why it doesn't just walk right off your backing, because it should just come off so smooth and easy. Once you have your vinyl done, we're going to take our transfer tape and we'll put our transfer tape over our vinyl design. Now, you can do this a couple ways. Since we only have one color, it's very easy. We can do it like a taco fold and start at the center and work our way out. You can start from the top and work your way on the bottom. I kind of like to start at a corner and I'll line up my bottom and go across the top. Now, what's really cool about the Make Market transfer tape is it has the grids on it. So you can see your grid lines are all right there. If you wanted to, you could trim any excess you have off of your transfer tape. You don't need that. And sometimes, believe it or not, that can kind of get in the way of getting it cleanly around your tumbler, because you have a little bit of extra stuff that you're dealing with. So we're gonna, we'll move that out of the way on this and use your wedge and make sure you push down that you're removing any air bubbles or anything like that. Now, if you have air bubbles right now between your transfer sheet and your vinyl, don't panic, because those air bubbles are not going to transfer to your glass. Okay, it's only if you get an air bubble between your vinyl and your glass that it will transfer. So then from here, we're just going to flip it over and you'll grab a corner of your carrier sheet from your vinyl. Now the the Cricut Smart Vinyl, the carrier sheet is really thick, and that's partly what makes it so easy to go through your machine. So as you're peeling back, I like to start at like a 45-degree corner, a 45-degree angle, and just kind of walk my vinyl sheet back. If my vinyl, like right here, wants to stick to my carrier sheet, I put it back down, I fold my carrier sheet, and then I keep pulling it up. If I come across a really hard spot that just doesn't want to come off, I will put it down and start at a different angle. Also, if you find you get too much of the carrier sheet in your hand makes it a little harder to maneuver, you can cut down your carrier sheet. Once you've removed your vinyl from your carrier sheet, we're done with this carrier sheet and we can throw that away. So if it makes it easier to trim it down, by all means do that. Otherwise, just keep working, kind of rocking and rolling it back and forth until you get it off the paper. Come back over. And you can always use your wedge. Oops. You can use your wedge piece to help hold that down if you need to. Or grab somebody in your house and say, hey, can you help me? I need to take my cardstock off. So this is one where I probably would cut this to make it just a little bit easier on me, because I'm doing it single-handedly here. All right, so we just took that off. Keeps wanting to flip on me. Give it a nice fold there so it doesn't want to come off anymore. There we go. All right, so we're just going to walk that right off. Fold. away we go. That little dot there does not want to come off. That's okay, because I just kind of give it a fold, I come at a different angle, and off it goes. Got that last one to get off, and we're good to go. Okay, so once you removed it from your backing piece, you're ready to put it on your glass. So you've got your glass cleaned up, and we want to put our design on our glass. One trick I'll share with you to make things a little easier is to take a piece of parchment paper and go ahead and trim it down the middle and put one on each side of your transfer. The parchment paper slides on and off, so it doesn't stick. You don't have to, it comes off very easily, but it gives you a little bit of a window to line up your design and put it on your cup without having to worry about everything else sticking. If you wanted to, you could come right to the center here and match it right up at the center. I'm just going to use my little opening there and let that kind of start my design. So for this design, before I get stuck down, you're going to want to look at the bottom of your design and line that up with the bottom curve of your glass. So your Libby glass here, your glass can has like, it curves up on the bottom and it curves down on the top. So what I want to do is I'm going to kind of just line this up a little easier and line that up with the bottom of my vinyl so that I can use this as my bottom on my design. So I can just kind of make sure it's not too far down or too far up. I want it to be right at that curve. Okay, so once I'm good with that, then I can just follow it around and make sure that I don't have it crooked. And it will go right around my glass. Mine's a little bit crooked, so I'm just gonna pull this up. And even if one of my dots decides to stay, pardon me, that's okay. Sorry, that was a loud cough. Let's just get this. I think my line there is crooked in the center. So it's throwing me off a bit. I'm going to use this part here. Yeah, that's better. All right, so now I've got it nice and smooth here. I'm going to roll it around and make sure that it's going to be at the overlap and everything looks hunky-dory. Once I've done that, I can come back and I can expose one side, remove that parchment paper, and as I remove the parchment paper, I can smooth my design onto my glass. If you want to completely remove your parchment paper and just turn your glass and smooth it down as you go, you can totally do that. You want that to be nice and smooth. Use your wedge here. And we're just going to rub that down and make sure everything stays in place. And then we're just going to come to the other side and do the same thing. Now, one thing is over here, you don't want to end up overlapping. So you may have to peel a little bit of this back, the transfer tape back, to get yourself started. So we'll just pull that back just a little bit like that. And then we'll come over here. We're ready to remove our parchment paper. Hold your design out and rotate your glass as you go, pushing your vinyl design down into your Libby glass. Oops. I like to kind of walk it along so that I can make sure that I'm removing any bubbles that may happen behind my vinyl design. So I'm just kind of walking that along as I go. And then as I get here, I can see that I'm going to have an overlap issue. So I'm going to pull back that little piece there. Let that overlap, and now it all comes together and you can't even tell that there was a seam there as those come together. And then you can just, again, we can remove our transfer tape. If anything sticks, just push it back down. And if you find that you have a bubble on anything, just kind of come back with your little wedge and work out any bubbles as you go. So I can just, with my finger there, I could just remove that bubble. Sometimes it's easier if you do it like on the side like this and rotate on the side of the glass. There's another little heart, little dot. There we go. And these are fun. If you did different designs for everybody, everyone would know like, oh, this was my design. If you had a signature drink that night, you could, write up your signature beverage for everybody, like a little recipe card. That down. All right. There we go. There's our design. Now you can save that transfer tape. Mine got a little squished up there. Save your transfer tape for another design. You can reuse your transfer tape over and over again. So we'll just use our wedge here and push out any little dots we have. If for some reason you can't get it out, very carefully, you can lift that one piece of vinyl, release that bubble, and then push it back down. And you're good to go. All right. So that is our Galentine's event. We're ready for our friends. We've got some tumblers to go. We have their treat boxes, their invitations, and their nameplates all ready for them. Oops, that's gonna roll right up there. All right. Now, were there any questions that we didn't get to or that I can answer before we head out? All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me. We'd love to see what you make. Please tag Michael in any of your social media posts. And we do have a class that was canceled from last week that we're making up on Thursday for doing a paint by numbers. And it could be an activity that would go along with your Valentine's Day plans. So I hope to see you there. Have a great evening, everyone.